I'm from India. This is a story that happened around 1,000 years ago. The year was 1000 AD. 1,000 years ago, if you lived on the border of two kingdoms, you knew one thing: your kingdom would go to war. You also knew you wouldn't be able to stay out of it. It was not a matter of if they would go to war, but when. So when the war drums echoed across the valley, Aaron woke up thinking it's here. But he also thought, what can a farmer do? His father used to say, Aaron, in war, son, there is no right or wrong. There is only the will to live. Aaron never understood what his father meant until the day the enemy came down from the mountains. They came with fire and steel, their banners black as crows against the morning sun, darkening the light. The banners of House Drakkar, the sworn enemies of the Valley Kingdom. By midday, Aaron watched his world turn upside down. Farmers were wrestling horned warriors, women were hiding in wells, children were crying. The smell of blood hung heavy in the air. His father was dead. The old men said they fought with honor. Aaron found his mother crushed beneath a chariot wheel, her eyes wide open, her hands still clutching the amulet he made for her. He ran then, carrying nothing but a knife and the clothes on his back. He saw families burning, heard screams echoing, watched men fall like wheat stalks before a scythe. Aaron kept running. Where to, he didn't know. But run he did until he reached the safety of the forest. The trees took in the cries of the dying, the whispers of the wind carrying tales of loss and grief. Alone and scared, Aaron walked into the woods. Days turned into weeks. Food was scarce, water even more so. The wolves howled at night, remembering the taste of human flesh. During the day, soldiers roamed the woods looking for stragglers. The first few days, the villagers fought. Then some surrendered. Some tried to hide, but where could they hide? Hunger gnawed at his belly. Berries stained his lips purple, but they filled his stomach with leaden stones. He drank from streams tainted with the blood of fallen soldiers. Sleep was a luxury he couldn't afford. Every rustle of leaves sounded like an approaching soldier. Every shadow seemed to hold a lurking danger. Every bird that landed on a tree looked like a scout from the army. At night, he huddled by the fire with other survivors, sharing stories of loss and grief. All of them had suffered. All of them had lost something. All of them wondered why. One evening, a wounded Drakkar soldier stumbled upon their camp. Fear rippled through the group. Should they help him? Would he attack them in their sleep? Aaron, seeing the pain etched on the man's face, broke the bread he had been saving and gave half of it to the stranger. Slowly, cautiously, they built trust over shared stories of loss. The Drakkar soldier told them of his wife and children waiting for his return. The young farmer saw his own reflection in the soldier's eyes. He, too, had a family waiting for him. He missed his wife's smile, his children's laughter. His life, like everyone else's, had been reduced to this moment, this second, this breath. That night, as the sky burned red with another battle, Aaron made a decision. He walked out of the camp, away from the prying eyes and judging whispers. The moon was a silver coin in the velvet sky, and the stars were diamonds scattered on dark cloth. As Aaron walked deeper into the forest, he found a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood an ancient oak, its branches gnarled fingers pointing at the heavens. Here, beneath the watchful gaze of the ancient tree, Aaron slept without fear, dreaming of home and hearth. Morning came, bringing with it the sounds of the forest. Birds sang, squirrels chattered, and the wind rustled the leaves like a lullaby. Aaron woke up feeling lighter somehow, as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. But that feeling did not last long. Hunger returned, insistent and nagging. The berries had lost their flavor, and the stream he drank from tasted like ash. The vibrant colors of the forest seemed muted. The sweet songs of birds sounded like dirges. Even the sunlight filtering through the leaves appeared cold. One evening, while Rum family huddled around a small fire, a woman spoke up. Her voice, though hoarse from disuse, carried a quiet strength. "We cannot hide forever. We need food. We need water." All eyes turned to Arin. Since the day they had left the village, he had somehow managed to find food and water. The others, lost in their own grief and trauma, hadn't noticed. "I agree," said a burly man, his face lined with worry. "If we don't do something, we won't survive." The priest looked up from his lap. "There is a cave nearby," he said, his voice raspy from thirst, "where we might find water." They followed the priest into the heart of the forest. After what felt like hours, they found a cave hidden behind a waterfall. The sound of flowing water echoed within. As they stepped into the cave, they saw a pool of clear water shimmering in the dim light. But they weren't alone. Two men sat by the pool, their faces hidden in the shadows. The men jumped up, their eyes flashing with suspicion. "Who are you?" one of them demanded. Their leader, his face etched with exhaustion and determination, stepped forward. "We are survivors," he said, his voice echoing in the narrow cave, "fleeing the war." "Why should we let you have water?" the other man sneered. "We were here first." Their leader took a step closer. "We mean you no harm. We just need water to survive." The man hesitated, glancing at his companion. Finally, he nodded. "You can have some, but not all." When they emerged from the cave, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The sight of the colorful sky brought tears to Aaron's eyes. It was beautiful, but it mocked him with its indifference to their suffering. How could nature be so beautiful when their lives were in ruins? When they reached the clearing, the oak tree stood silent and stoic, a witness to their struggle. As days turned into weeks, the survivors eked out a living in the forest. They foraged for berries and herbs, hunted small animals, and fished in the streams. The priest, his faith restored by the kindness of strangers, led them in prayers of gratitude for the small blessings of life. The Drakkar soldier taught them how to set snares and traps for wild animals. The burly man, whose name they learned was Torin, kept watch, his keen eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. The woman, Ilara, tending to the fire, her hands moving with practiced grace, shared stories of her life in the village, stories that brought both laughter and tears. And Arin, the young farmer, walked the forest paths, always searching, always hoping to find something, anything, to ease the burden of their hunger. Then one day, as Arin walked along a familiar path, he came across something that made his heart skip a beat. It was a small patch of land hidden among the trees, and in the center of the patch, a single carrot peeping out from the soil. He carefully pulled it out and brushed off the dirt. It was small, but it was a start. Over the next few days, Arin returned with the others. Together, they cleared the undergrowth and planted seeds. They didn't have much, just a handful of dried beans and lentils, but it was enough. As the days grew longer and the sun shone brighter, their small patch of land began to yield. The beans sprouted, the lentils grew, and soon they had a small harvest of greens and legumes. It wasn't much, but it was a lifeline in a sea of despair. One evening, as they sat around their campfire, sharing their meager meal, a strange sound reached their ears. It was the distant sound of drums, the same drums that had signaled the coming of war. But these drums sounded different, almost like a victory celebration. Could it be? The war was over? The next morning, driven by a mixture of hope and trepidation, they decided to venture out of the forest. The sight that greeted them at the edge of the woods took their breath away. The war-torn village was a scene of devastation. Homes were burnt and destroyed, corpses lay strewn across the ground, and a thick blanket of silence hung over the ruins. But amidst the destruction, they saw something that made their hearts soar. A single white flag fluttering in the breeze, a symbol of peace. Cautiously, they made their way to the center of the village. There, on a makeshift platform, stood a man. He was tall, with an air of authority, but it was the emblem on his shield that caught their attention. It was the emblem of House Galen, the kingdom they had been fighting for. Hope surged through their veins. Was it over? Had they won? The man raised his hand, silencing the murmurs of the crowd. "People of the valley!" he boomed, his voice echoing across the silent village. "The war is over. House Drakkar has agreed to a truce." Cheers erupted, quickly turning into a roar of triumph. The long and bloody war was finally over. In the days that followed, the village began to stir back to life. The survivors emerged from their hiding places, their faces pale and drawn from weeks of hiding. The wounded were tended to, the dead were buried, and plans for rebuilding were made. Life, it seemed, was slowly returning to the valley. Aaron stood at the edge of the village, watching the sun set over the horizon. The sky was a canvas of vibrant colors, a stark contrast to the gray pallor of the past few weeks. He closed his eyes, breathing in the scent of the evening, a mixture of smoke, dirt, and hope. He could hear the distant sound of hammers ringing, the rhythmic thud of a carpenter's mallet, the lowing of cattle returning to their pens. The war was over. Now the hard task of rebuilding began. Turning to the others, he smiled, a tired but genuine smile. They had survived. They had endured the horrors of war, the loss of loved ones, the trauma of displacement, and the constant struggle for survival. And now they were going to rebuild their lives, piece by piece, day by day. Life, he realized, was not just about avoiding death. It was about embracing each moment, each sunrise, each breath, each heartbeat. Life, he knew, was precious because it was fragile. It was a gift that needed to be cherished every single day. As the darkness of night enveloped the valley, Aaron turned back to the village, his steps lighter, his heart a little less burdened. The war was over, and the dawn of a new day was breaking.